Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy and coming up over the next 1 hour. The Ministry of External Affairs rejects recent anti-India comments made by Donald Trump's senior trade advisor Peter Navarro, dubs them as inaccurate and misleading. Uncertainty due to Trump tariffs hits where it hurts, at home in the US. Jobs growth slows sharply in August. Unemployment takes up. The US President laments that India and Russia seem to be lost to deepest, darkest China. His social media post accompanies a photo of the three nations' leaders together at the recently held SCO summit in China. Vladimir Putin rejects Western proposals for a reassurance force in Ukraine post-ceasefire scenario at Paris summit of Kyiv's allies. Says any troops deployed in Ukraine would be legitimate targets. And reports say UK Defence Secretary David Lammy is to be the country's new Deputy Prime Minister after Angela Rayner resigns following tax evasion on a property purchase. Commons leader has also been sacked. Now, the Ministry of External Affairs has rejected the recent series of anti-India comments made by US President Donald Trump's senior trade advisor Peter Navarro as inaccurate and misleading. MEA spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal also said that India remains focused on the agenda that the two nations have committed to and hoped that it will keep moving forward.
This relationship between United States and India is very important for us. Both our countries, we share a comprehensive global strategic partnership which is anchored in our shared interests, democratic values and robust people-to-people ties. This partnership has weathered several transitions, as I said before, and challenges. We remain focused on the substantive agenda that our two countries have committed to, and we hope that the relationship will continue to move forward based on mutual respect and shared interests. We have seen the inaccurate and misleading statements made by Mr. Navarro, and obviously we reject them.
Well, in a massive blow to the United States, the country's job growth further slowed in August, signaling an increased stress in the labor market. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported on Friday that the United States added just 22,000 jobs in August, well below expectations of 75,000. The unemployment rate also ticked higher to 4.3%, which was recorded lowest since 2010. Friday's report is the first since President Donald Trump fired the agency's head, Erica McEntaffer, over accusations of releasing inaccurate data. However, on Thursday night, Trump said the real numbers for jobs would come out next year without giving any reasons. Meanwhile, US stocks turned lower on Friday after a weak jobs report. White House responded that job data is disappointing and expects the Fed to weigh larger rate cut in September.
The jobs numbers have been a little bit lower over the last 3 or 4 months. The chairman of the Fed sets the agenda. Then they have options that they all consider and discuss, and I would guess that they'll be discussing the main market expectation is 25 basis points, but I would guess that there would be an expectation, a discussion of a higher cut, but I wouldn't expect it to happen.
Now, Canada had almost 1.6 million people unemployed in August, and its unemployment rate reached a 9-year peak, barring the pandemic years. The number of job losses in August reached the worst level since January 2022. According to the data, unemployment rate rose 0.2% in August to 7.1%, a level last seen in May 2016. A critical metric called the participation rate that shows how many people were economically active was at 65.1%, also the lowest since the pandemic. Persistent uncertainty around US trade policy has kept Canadian businesses on tenterhooks, leading to minimal hiring and investment impacting the job market and economic growth, with big job losses in the auto manufacturing and steel sectors. South Korea's government said on Friday its citizens' rights must not be violated in the course of Korean businesses' work in the US, noting many of its nationals had been detained after an immigration raid at a Hyundai Motors factory in Georgia. The project is part of what would be the biggest investment in Georgia and underscores the impact of the Trump administration's immigration crackdown on businesses.
미국의 법 집행 과정에서
The economic activities of our companies investing in the United States and the interests of our citizens must not be unduly violated during the course of the US law enforcement. In Seoul, we also conveyed our concerns and regret through the US Embassy, urging special attention to ensure that the legitimate rights and interests of our citizens are not violated.
당부하였습니다.
Now, Donald Trump recently expressed frustration on social media, suggesting that India and Russia have effectively been lost to China. His comments came after the leaders of India, Russia and China, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, President Vladimir Putin and President Xi Jinping met at the SCO summit in China. Now, Trump's post included a photo of the three leaders together, remarking, "Looks like we've lost India and Russia to deepest, darkest China. May they have a long and prosperous future together." End quote. Now, this meeting took place at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin, China, where Xi Jinping hosted more than 20 non-Western leaders, including President Putin and Prime Minister Modi. During the event, Modi and Putin were seen holding hands as they walked towards Xi before the three leaders posed together. Trump's remark reflects his ongoing tension with both India and Russia, especially given his administration's troubled trade relations with India and its complex diplomatic stances on Russia. Trump had earlier expressed disappointment with Putin, but indicated that he was not overly concerned about the growing ties between Russia and China. And it's been a fast-paced Friday in the United Kingdom as Prime Minister Keir Starmer reshuffles his cabinet following the resignation of Angela Rayner as his Deputy Prime Minister, Housing Secretary and Deputy Labour Party leader as well. David Lammy has now been appointed as the new Deputy Prime Minister, replacing Angela Rayner. Interior Minister Yvette Cooper will replace him as Foreign Minister. Lucy Powell, the leader of Britain's House of Commons, was sacked by Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Friday as part of a wider government reshuffle. Powell said Starmer had told her he intended to replace her with a new Commons leader. Shabana Mahmood has been appointed as Home Secretary. This change in the cabinet signals the government's biggest priorities of dealing with illegal immigration and asylum. Also, Scotland Minister Ian Murray has left the government, according to a statement he posted on his microblogging handle X on X. Also earlier, UK Deputy Prime Minister, like I mentioned, Angela Rayner resigned days after admitting to underpaying tax on a property in southern England. In a letter to Prime Minister Starmer, she said that she takes full responsibility for the error of not seeking further tax advice on the purchase. So it was a ministerial conduct breach there. Thailand's parliament on Friday elected Anutin Charnvirakul as the country's new prime minister, making him the nation's third leader since 2023. Backed by opposition People's Party, Charnvirakul will be in office for just 4 months after promising to dissolve parliament and hold fresh elections.
Days of political deadlock in Thailand broke on Friday when Parliament elected Anutin Charnvirakul as the country's new Prime Minister following the ouster of the dominant populist Shinawatra dynasty. The 58-year-old leader won 311 votes, securing a comfortable majority in the National Assembly's lower house, comprising 492 MPs. Chanravirakul's selection comes after his predecessor, Paithaon Shinawatra of the Pheu Thai party, was dismissed from office by the court last week after being found guilty of ethics violations. Anuthin's Bhum Jaitai was the second largest party in the ruling coalition led by Paithaon's Pheu Thai party when he was deputy prime minister. Anuthin withdrew from the coalition in June after the damaging leak of a phone call between the Prime Minister Shinawatra and Cambodia's Hun Sen over a border dispute. The opposition People's Party backed Anuthin's candidature. However, their support was given only on the condition that Parliament is dissolved within 4 months in order to hold fresh polls. Locals believe that it's time for change.
I strongly agree that it's time for a change. I believe something can be done to improve governance in these 4 months.
I think we should just let him take the lead for a bit. We'll see how it goes and decide later.
Anuthin Charnavirakul hails from a prominent political and business family. He is best known for successfully lobbying for the decriminalization of cannabis in the country. With Thailand's stuttering economy, tensions with neighboring Cambodia and the spectre of political turmoil at home are the top challenges for Anuthin. With agency inputs, Tripti Tripaঠি's report for DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour. Mauritian Prime Minister Naveen Chandra Ramgoolam is set to visit India from the 9th to the 16th of this month. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar calls on Bhutan King Tshering Tobgay in New Delhi during his official 3-day visit to India. And India gets its first port with a green hydrogen production pilot project in Tuticorin.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, Mauritian Prime Minister Naveen Chandra Ramgoolam will visit India from the 9th to the 16th of this month. India's Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal said that this would be Prime Minister Ramgoolam's first overseas visit in his present term.
The Prime Minister of Mauritius, His Excellency Dr. Naveen Chandra Ramgoolam, will undertake a state visit to India from 9 to 16th of September 2025. This will be the first overseas bilateral visit of Prime Minister Dr. Ramgoolam to India in his present term.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar called on Bhutan's Prime Minister Tshering Tobgay and New Delhi. Jaishankar conveyed warm greetings to Prime Minister Modi to his counterpart. In a post on X, Minister Jaishankar said that India and Bhutan's unique and time-tested partnership continues to move from strength to strength. He also thanked Prime Minister Tobgay for his leadership and guidance. Earlier, the Bhutanese Prime Minister, accompanied by his wife Tashi Doma and official entourage, visited the Sri Ram Mandir at Ayodhya in Uttar Pradesh. Prime Minister Tobgay is in India on an official visit till Saturday. A landmark day for India's clean energy transition as well, where India's Shipping Minister Sarbanand Sonowal inaugurated the green hydrogen pilot project at V.O. Chidambaram Nar port in Tuticorin, making it India's first port to produce green hydrogen. Established at a cost of 3.87 crore Indian rupees, the facility will produce 10 normal cubic meters of gas per hour of green hydrogen marking a significant step in fulfilling Prime Minister Modi's National Green Hydrogen Mission and India's net zero commitments. Tensions continue to escalate in West Asia as Israel intensifies its military offensive in Gaza City, claiming control of over 40% of the city, targeting what it claims are Hamas strongholds in high-rise buildings. Meanwhile, the Hamas has released new footage of Israeli hostages, adding a fresh dimension to an already complex and volatile situation. The next report examines the contours of the conflict as it stands in greater detail.
The Israeli military has ramped up its offensive in Gaza City, launching large-scale airstrikes on high-rise buildings. These targets, according to the Israeli Defense Forces, are believed to house significant Hamas activity. Israel says it now controls about 40% of Gaza City. Military spokesperson Brigadier General Efi Defrin announced that forces have seized large parts of the Zaytun and Sheikh Radwan neighborhoods.
Today we hold 40% of Gaza City. The operation will continue to expand and intensify in the coming days. Hamas will face the Israeli armed forces in their full force in Gaza City. We will increase the pressure on Hamas until it's destroyed. We will continue to pursue them everywhere.
In a statement on Friday, the IDF claimed it had identified significant Hamas terrorist activity within a wide variety of infrastructure sites in Gaza City and particularly in high-rise buildings. Meanwhile, diplomatic tensions are rising as the US warns against the recognition of a Palestinian state. Speaking from Ecuador on Thursday, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that Washington has urged countries to hold off on such recognition, claiming it could cause more problems. But despite US concerns, several Western nations, including Britain, France, Canada, Australia, and Belgium, have expressed their intent to recognize Palestinian statehood during the upcoming UN General Assembly this month, a move intended to pressure Israel to end its offensive in Gaza and halt the expansion in the West Bank. Rubio refrained from commenting on Israel's internal discussions about annexing parts of the West Bank, saying the matter was not final.
We told all these countries, we told them all. We said, if you guys do this recognition stuff, it's all fake. It's not even real. If you do it, you're going to create big problems. There's going to be a response from Israel. You're going to make it harder to get a ceasefire. And it may even trigger these sorts of actions that you've seen, or at least these attempts at these actions.
In response to growing international pressure and scrutiny, Hamas has released new video footage showing Israeli hostages being held in Gaza. The release comes as part of what analysts see as a strategic attempt to gain leverage in ongoing regional and diplomatic developments. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, the European Union has slapped tech giant Google with a massive $3.47 billion antitrust fine for breaching EU competition rules in the advertising technology market. The move has come despite Donald Trump warning Europe over penalizing American big tech. The Commission said that the tech giant infringed competition rules by favoring its own online display ad tech services over its competitors. The bloc added that Google abused its dominant position in ad tech, harming publishers, advertisers and consumers. On top of the fine, Google now has 60 days to inform the Commission how it would resolve its behavior. Google immediately vowed to appeal the decision. Now, two powerful aftershocks struck eastern Afghanistan 12 hours apart, triggering fears of more deaths and destruction on Friday in a region where earthquakes have killed over 2,200 people as rescuers battled mountainous terrain and harsh weather. Taliban authorities said on Friday that 13 people were injured, of which 10 were discharged after treatment and 3 were in a stable condition. Here's more.
At least 10 people were injured and more damage was caused on Friday when a series of powerful aftershocks followed a deadly 6.9 Richter earthquake that struck eastern Afghanistan last Sunday. According to the German Research Center for Geosciences, a 5.4 magnitude earthquake shook the southeast region on Friday morning, hours after a powerful jolt late on Thursday night, with some tremors in Kabul and Islamabad. Taliban authorities said that around 2,200 people died in quakes in just 4 days. Over 3,600 people were injured, while tens of thousands were left homeless. In Afghanistan's Kunar province, a strange visceral fear sweeps across the people, as some are pinned under the rubble, while some losing their hope to live.
I thought I was going to die, that no one was left, as if doomsday had come and everyone else had died. I kept screaming for someone to save me, otherwise I would have died.
Many countries, including Russia and Germany, have pledged economic support to Afghanistan to deal with the quake devastations. Others, including India, have delivered aid and relief materials at short notice to support people hit by the earthquake. The week's first earthquake of magnitude 6, just minutes before midnight on Sunday, was one of Afghanistan's deadliest, unleashing damage and destruction in the provinces of Nangarhar and Kunar when it struck at a shallow depth of 10 kilometers. Many of the communities affected by the earthquake were already struggling after recent flash floods, and worsening weather conditions now threaten to exacerbate the humanitarian crisis. Ayushi Bhatnagar's report, DD India.
Czech opposition politician Andrej Babiš launched his party's election campaign on Thursday, taking aim at the government of Prime Minister Petr Fiala and the European Union. Babiš said a government under ANO would be a defense against nonsense from Brussels. He also pledged to stop sending weapons to Ukraine. Opinion polls for next month's parliamentary elections show ANO winning the most votes with over 30%. This time, as many as 7 parties could exceed the 5% threshold to win seats in parliament, meaning the next government is almost certain to be a coalition. The vote is set for the 3rd and 4th of next month. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the world as well. A tragedy unfolded in Sri Lanka where a bus carrying more than 30 passengers went down a hill slope, killing at least 15 people. The incident took place when the bus was carrying municipal workers who were returning from an excursion. A single red rose was left outside the Armani headquarters in Milan on Friday as a quiet tribute to Italian designer Giorgio Armani, who died at the age of 91 on Thursday. New Class iX3 electric sport utility vehicle has been unveiled by BMW, a key model for the German car maker that could help it reclaim some of the market share it lost in its largest market, China. The model will enter production at the end of the year and will go on sale in Europe in March 2026 at a price of €68,900 or $80,700. And still to come on DD India News Hour. We'll be speaking with our expert guests about where does the bid to resolve the Ukraine conflict stand, with the standoff between Russia and the West refusing to ease.
We're always on the move, to the market, to work, to meet our friends. But how often do we stop and think about, is there a cleaner, affordable and eco-friendly way to travel?
Since switching to this e-rickshaw, I feel so much better. Everything is easier with this battery-powered rickshaw.
Our research is focused on a less mature technology, which will be less costly, so it'll be more economically viable.
If you plant new saplings, they'll take 10 years to grow. When we replant the trees, we are also retaining the oxygen the trees provide and preserving greenery.
My dream would be to have a play street / parklet, so we could have the parklet for some adults and some refreshments, and then everyone could come and kids could be playing.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy, and before we go any further, another look at our top stories. The Ministry of External Affairs has rejected recent anti-India comments made by Trump's senior trade advisor, Peter Navarro, dubbing them as inaccurate and misleading. Uncertainty due to Trump tariffs has hit where it hurts at home in the US. Jobs growth has slowed sharply in August and unemployment has ticked up. Donald Trump laments that India and Russia seem lost to deepest, darkest China. His social media post accompanies a photo of the three nations' leaders together at the recently held SCO summit in China. Vladimir Putin rejects Western proposals for a reassurance force in Ukraine post-ceasefire scenario at Paris summit of Kyiv's allies. Says any troops deployed in Ukraine would be legitimate targets. And reports say UK Defence Secretary David Lammy will be the country's new Deputy Prime Minister after Angela Rayner resigns following tax evasion on a property purchase. Commons leader also sacked. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned that any Western military personnel deployed to Ukraine would be considered legitimate targets by Moscow. This follows French President Macron's announcement that 26 countries have pledged post-war security guarantees to Ukraine, including the possible deployment of military forces for long-term stability. New Delhi has extended support for peaceful resolution of the Ukraine conflict. More in the next report by Mohammad Afzarul Hassan.
In a stark warning, Russian President Vladimir Putin has declared that any Western military personnel deployed to Ukraine would be considered as legitimate targets by Moscow. Putin's remarks came just a day after French President Emmanuel Macron announced that 26 countries have pledged to provide post-war security guarantees to Ukraine, including possible deployment of forces.
Regarding the potential foreign military contingents in Ukraine, it is one of the root causes behind drawing Ukraine into NATO. Therefore, if some troops appear there, especially now during military operations, we proceed from the fact that these will be the legitimate targets for destruction.
At the Paris summit on Thursday, which brought together 35 leaders under the banner Coalition of the Willing, European allies reaffirmed their long-term commitment to Ukraine's security once a peace agreement is in place. President Macron said that the 26-nation coalition has pledged to deploy military forces by land, sea or air to help guarantee post-war stability.
26 countries have committed themselves to deploying troops in Ukraine as a reassurance force or to being present on ground, at sea or in the air to provide this reassurance to Ukrainian territory and to Ukraine the day after the ceasefire or peace.
The summit focused on finalizing a unified European stance on post-conflict security guarantees. Details of the US role in this framework are expected to be finalized in the coming days. Reacting swiftly, US President Donald Trump told reporters that the US and Russia are maintaining a very good dialogue following discussions with Ukrainian and European leaders. Kremlin, however, responded to the development, saying any potential talks between President Putin and President Zelensky would require substantial groundwork. Meanwhile, at the UN in New York, India reiterated its call for a peaceful resolution of Ukraine war. Addressing the UN General Assembly, India's permanent representative P. Harish said New Delhi continues to support all diplomatic efforts aimed at ending the conflict. In New Delhi, India extended support for early end and establishment of an enduring peace. The MEA spokesperson said India welcomes all the recent efforts towards establishing peace in Ukraine.
We welcome all the recent efforts towards establishing peace in Ukraine. We hope that all parties will proceed ahead constructively. India supports an early end of the conflict and the establishment of an enduring peace.
As tensions escalate and global leaders deliberate, the path to peace remains uncertain, but ongoing diplomacy, strategic dialogue, and unified international commitment may yet shape a stable post-war future for Ukraine. Mohammad Afzarul Hassan's report for DD India.
So where is the peace effort now going as far as Ukraine is concerned? Let's try and find that out. We have with us Sushil Kumar Singhal, foreign senior diplomat. Good evening to you, Master Singhal. What do you make of what's happening now? We've had the Western allies meeting together and saying that they can put together a force of the coalition of the willing. Apparently, they had a meeting, they had a chat with Donald Trump as well, a video call. Zelensky was also in the mix. But the reaction from Vladimir Putin, well, it's a long expected lines, but does it tell you where this entire conflict resolution process is headed?
Oh, well, when you look at what has been transpired in Paris in the coalition, 26th nation coalition of willing, with member of which has about 26 countries and is led by French president. They assure that they will provide support to Ukraine in terms of military, land, air, and navy, and training and weaponry. But when it comes to the troop deployment, they said they will deploy troops only after the peace is achieved. And as far as the President Putin is concerned, he is very clear. This is a red line for him, that any troop of European countries is not acceptable, and he's outside. They say there's going to be a legitimate target for him. So that means it is a non-starter as far as the peace process is concerned. And when we look at the President Trump, what President Trump is saying is that I'm a broker now. I'm an honest broker. I'm trying to bring Ukraine and Russia together. On the other side, he's claiming there is a lot of progress. Of course, he's not able to spell out what kind of progress has been made. But what I see, the change in attitude on Russian side, is that President Putin is now accepting that, this is a legitimate concern of Ukraine to have the peace, the guarantees, security guarantees. But what form it will take, he says that it requires more discussion, considerations. So what the point he is making is that the hurried manner in which the European countries as well as President Trump want to proceed with the peace process is not acceptable to President Putin, because he claims, he feels that the root cause for all this conflict are not being addressed at this moment. And when the European countries talk about putting boot on the ground after the peace, that exactly the fear which Russia has, that they will have the Europeans countries next to his border, which it's not acceptable to Russia. So in my view, there is a possibility of peace, as the government of India is also saying, and as you just showed that our PR, permanent representative, Mr. P. Harish, spoke in UNGA, that peace is necessary, it should happen, and only way is the peace. War is not a solution. But I think it require a more nuanced approach and consideration of all parties' interest, core interests, which need to be taken into account. Therefore, in my view, every side has to give in some. And what it will be, I think it depends on the peace discussions which take place. So, looks like it's still a long process, and it will take time to achieve peace in between Ukraine and Russia.
Right. And what is the solution then in terms of what kind of security guarantees could there be for Ukraine if there are no forces, European forces or American forces, although American forces have not really been offered yet by Donald Trump? We do not know what exactly is Donald Trump or America offering. But if there are no forces on the ground from the western side in Ukraine after a ceasefire, what sort of security guarantee do you think will Ukraine have?
Well, in my view, which the one possibility which has not been considered, which nobody has talked about, is the UN peacekeeping. We already have a process for this kind of situation, which is that we keep the UN peacekeeping forces on the ground which I think would be acceptable to Russia also, and it should be acceptable to Ukraine also. Well, I don't understand why the European countries, despite knowing that whole what is the issue, they are very keen to have the European forces on the ground. If I think this operation is conducted under UN, it will be acceptable to all sides. So, in my view, this is one possibility they should consider.
But going with what's happening with the UNIFIL in Lebanon, Israel has been dropping bombs on them recently. Do you think that is one course that might be viable?
Well, this is I'm saying one possibilities, but it can be improvised. Like, there was a proposal from Steve Witkoff that Article 5, like security guarantee, can also be considered. In NATO, they have Article 5 NATO treaty, which says that, attack on one country is considered attack on another. So that will give another umbrella to Ukraine without keeping the troops on the ground. That if there is an attack again, and so that the European countries and USA will take the responsibilities. And coupled with the UN peacekeeping forces on ground, I think that will be quite an adequate security guarantee for Ukraine.
Okay. And in the meantime, do you think Donald Trump could do something that could convince Vladimir Putin to come to the negotiation table? Because he has given deadline after deadline. The latest is expiring today itself. So, will there be some movement on that front?
Well, President Trump is saying there's some progress. So I'm sure they're behind the door. There must be some discussion taking place. And they must be trying to narrow down the differences. And the most important thing is, of course, President Trump has said that, there will be exchange of territory. So in my view, maybe some discussion is taking place, but President Putin, I think his view is that he doesn't like to work the manner in which President Trump works. President Trump like to get involved in the nitty-gritties. President Putin doesn't want to get involved into nitty-gritties, and he wants the officials to, finalize the deal, and then he will have a meeting with the Zelensky and other leaders. So something on that line, I think, has to be done, and it makes sense also, because just a meeting at the highest level without any result doesn't make sense. So some groundwork should be done, and then only the meeting should take place. And I think when President Trump says that there is a progress, so maybe he's indicating in that direction, in my view. But knowing President Trump, very difficult to predict what he's meaning.
And what more can be done by the West, if not the US, then other Western allies of Ukraine, particularly in Europe, to mount further pressure on Vladimir Putin? Because right now, of course, the kind of offering that he's made that Zelensky can come to Moscow to speak with me one-on-one, Zelensky has said that he's almost equated to a joke.
Well, this is what it is. That is what I think the groundwork needs to be done. When President Putin is under pressure, he's just saying that, okay, come and talk. Again, I'm saying that, European countries, if they want, they can have actually it is the officials who need to get involved in the discussions to work out the peace process or the peace agreement, and what are the terms of that, which all sides have to agree. And then the leadership should meet and finalize everything. So European countries, at the moment, the way they are going about is that, they are, on the one hand, they're talking of, arming Ukraine and promising that they will continue the fight. And then other side, they're looking at USA to bring about the peace by, imposing, by putting pressure on Russia, or by imposing sanctions. So I think this whole approach requires some finesse, and they need to come around what really they plan to do. Because at the moment that they're going about it will not yield much result, in my view.
And what does this post by Donald Trump on Truth Social tell you about his lament of how America seems to have lost India and Russia to deepest, darkest China. What does he seem to be talking about? I mean, how seriously should one take these comments?
Well, the tweets or the statements on Truth Social by President Trump, they keep changing. And on the face value, when we look at it, it seems that, President Trump has realized that, his policy of trying to keep Russia away from China and India, trying to having a normal relation with China, that policy has failed from his side, and he's feeling that they are coming closer, they are coming together rather. So and they're getting in the embrace of China, which I think is very, very. If I can use the term, I don't want to use that term. Well, it's. I think it's not very well thought out comment.
Thankfully, he said only losing, because in the context of when there was the meeting between President Xi and President Putin, as well as Kim Jong-un, he said conspiring.
Yeah. So that is what I'm saying. It's not, when he's putting out the tweet, maybe he's not reading them, after putting it. So after typing, or maybe he's, so he doesn't know what he's really sending out. So because as a president, if there's some leaders are meeting, that doesn't mean that everybody is conspiring against him or against USA. Well, there is a normal, conversation. They're obviously, when they're participating in a victory parade or they're meeting some international fora, multilateral fora, naturally the leader will meet and talk, joke also at times when they are comfortable with each other. So that doesn't mean they are, talking or working against any particular country. So it's that's sort of like, he should read his tweets carefully before, putting it out in public.
Yes, and India has very forthrightly, the External Affairs Ministry today has very clearly said that it rejects the kind of comments that have been made by Peter Navarro as well about India. But we still have people like Howard Lutnick saying all kinds of things on American media.
Well, what is happening at the moment is that kind of advisor unfortunately, kind of advisor President Trump is having at this moment. I think they're just taking cue from their leader and making inflammatory statements, I would use the term, to indicate their loyalty to their leader. And in the process, they're not realizing what they are harming the relationship, India-US relationship, which has been nurtured by the all administration for last 20, 25, 30 years. So in my view, these statements are not actually against India, but they are meant to please, in their view, to their leaders. So
let me take you back to that Truth Social post about losing India and Russia to deepest and darkest China. Is it some sort of Freudian slip also by Donald Trump? He's sort of admitting that his foreign policy, his tariffs have failed?
Well, it's indirectly, yes, he's admitting that, this policy of coercion has not worked and is not working with India, because it's a big setback for him, actually, when you look at it, because other countries, when he did the same kind of, policy or same kind of threat, they have not worked with India. India has stood its ground and said that, we are not going to give in to the coercion, and we will work as per whatever our national interest dictate. And we are all for the multipolar world, and we have a strategic autonomy, which is to President Trump. I think he is not able to understand that when India says that, we are having our strategic autonomy or options or freedom of options wherever we want to do, to whomsoever we want to do business. So he is not able to understand, because he thought, or maybe he still feels, that his policy of giving threats and everybody giving in to his threats, will work and it should work with India also. Maybe he's getting very, very frustrated with his failure to achieve his objectives.
Right. Well, for the moment, it sounded like class bully has been put down by others. But let's see which way things go, because out of it, there is still some hope of getting to peace where Ukraine is concerned. But getting a sense of normalcy anywhere these days is a fairly remote thought when things like these keep happening every now and then. Thanks a lot for joining us, Ambassador Singhal, to talk about it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the country. Well, Haryana Chief Minister Nayab Singh Saini has taken part in the Bhumi Pujan of Gurugram Metro Rail on Friday. The Chief Minister said that Gurugram is an emerging IT hub that needs an empowered and modern mode of transport. World powerlifting champion Mahant Gaurav Sharma set an example of humanity by reaching out to flood-affected people in Delhi and distributing food packets amongst them. Many families have been displaced due to rising waters of the Yamuna River. On the occasion of Teachers' Day, Assam Governor Lakshman Prasad Acharya felicitated Rajat Chandra Goswami at his residence in Jorhat. Goswami is the oldest surviving primary school teacher of the state. And still to come on DD India News Hour. At least 16 people have been killed in a fresh Ebola virus outbreak in Congo. India have kick-started their Women's Asia Cup campaign with a thumping 11-0 win over Thailand in China. And former New Zealand captain Ross Taylor will now represent Samoa, the country of his mother's birth.
US launch a bombing campaign against Iran. The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, health authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo have declared a new outbreak of the Ebola virus. The latest outbreak has killed 16 people so far. 28 suspected cases have been recorded in the central Kasai province. The World Health Organization has said case numbers are likely to increase as transmission has been ongoing. Ebola is a rare but often fatal illness in humans. It's transmitted through contact with blood and other bodily fluids. Congo has recorded over a dozen outbreaks, the last one in 2022 in the Equateur province. A devastating 2018-2020 outbreak killed nearly 2,300 people in the country. The Indian Institute of Technology, or IIT Roorkee, held its annual convocation on Friday. Union Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh graced the event. The minister said that technology plays a pivotal role in the development of the nation and India is on its path to becoming the third largest economy in the world. He underlined that the country has made a quantum leap in the space sector while also witnessing a remarkable rise in the number of startups.
In this government in the last 10, 11 years, I've been going around saying this, that now we are economy number 4. We came from 10 to 4 and then we hope to go to 3 and then 2 and 1. So how do we do that? Where is the value addition going to come from? And that's for the technical people, the researchers and the teachers to think about. So when the value addition will come from those resources which have not been fully explored over the last 60, 70 years, whether that is a sea resource, we have about 11,000 kilometer long coastal area which was never looked into, a whole amount of wealth of mines, minerals, biodiversity, fisheries. Then we have, of course, the space, which is now being opened up to the private sector, started making a quantum leap.
Now, the Toronto International Film Festival returned for a 50th edition on Thursday with a lineup of star-studded blockbuster films, documentaries and series from around the world. DD India's Munun Bhattacharya reports from Toronto.
The 50th Toronto International Film Festival has begun. What you're seeing right here is one of the multiple red carpets during this festival that screen various movies from around the world. TIFF star on Canada's Walk of Fame has been unveiled, and the opening film of the festival is John Candy, I Like Me. This is a world premiere of the documentary John Candy, I Like Me. It is based on the life of this Canadian comedy icon. It is directed by Colin Hanks and produced by Rayner. John Candy's family walked the red carpet alongside the opening night film's executive producer Ryan Reynolds and director Colin Hanks. The documentary features the Toronto-raised actor's life on and off camera with exclusive home videos, family interviews and collaborators' recollections to showcase the legacy of a career spanning 2 decades.
Well, I mean, the fact that he's from Toronto and was nicknamed Johnny Toronto, it's kind of a no-brainer. So the fact that we're here at TIFF is really kind of like the perfect dream scenario. So I'm very happy about that. And really, I just wanted to showcase not only how talented he was and showcase, you know, everything that he did as an actor, but more importantly showcase the kind of human he was, because he really was a great guy.
5 venues in all are screening films, with red carpets rolled out for select films at the Royal Alexandra Theatre, Roy Thompson Hall, the Visa Screening Room at the Princess of Wales Theatre and the TIFF Light Box. The festival is closely watched for its showcase of films starring Hollywood A-listers and independent features from across the globe, which often set the tone for the awards season, culminating in the Oscars. Director Rian Johnson's latest in the Knives Out franchise, Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery, will have its world premiere on the 6th of September. Canadian premieres include Iranian filmmaker Jafar Panahi's It Was Just an Accident, which won the top prize at Cannes this year, Joachim Trier's Sentimental Value, and Chloe Shah's Hamnet starring Paul Mescal as William Shakespeare. Guillermo del Toro's magnum opus Frankenstein and Benny Safdie's The Smashing Machine will also have their North American premieres at the TIFF. And who are the big names attending? Scarlett Johansson, Russell Crowe, Jodie Foster, Dwayne Johnson, Rami Malek, Ralph Fiennes and Ryan Reynolds are among the stars attending. One of the several awards presented on the last day of the festival is the People's Choice Award, which is seen as an Oscars bellwether. Past winners include Chariots of Fire, Slumdog Millionaire and Nomadland. The festival closes with Annie Mohn's Canadian romantic comedy Peak Everything. With cameraman YK Loknath, this is Munun Bhattacharya from Toronto for DD India.
Time now to get you some sporting updates. India's Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports, Mansukh Mandavia, unveiled the logo and mascot Jalveer in New Delhi on Friday for the 11th Asian Aquatics Championships. The championship will take place from the 1st to the 15th of next month in Ahmedabad. Swimmers from Japan and South Korea are expected to compete at the Continental Meet, marking the tournament's first edition in the country. The championship will feature swimming, diving, artistic swimming and water polo. The 10th Asian Age Group Championships in 2019 was the last international swimming event hosted by India. Sports Minister Mandavia posted on X, and I quote, "Congratulations to the Swimming Federation of India and the Government of Gujarat for their dedicated efforts in bringing this prestigious event to Bharat. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, Bharat is emerging as a global sporting destination equipped with world-class facilities and an inspiring ecosystem for athletes." End quote. Now, the Indian hockey team began their Women's Asia Cup campaign with an 11-0 win over Thailand in China on Friday. Mumtaz Khan, Udita and Beauty Dung Dung scored 2 goals apiece for India in Hangzhou City. India asserted their dominance early on with field goals from Mumtaz Khan and Sangeeta Kumari in the first quarter. The second quarter saw India further increase their attacking intensity with 3 more goals to extend their advantage. The final quarter saw India score 5 goals to seal a huge win. India will now face Japan on Saturday. The tournament also doubles up as a qualifier for the 2026 Hockey World Cup, scheduled to be co-hosted by Belgium and the Netherlands. The champions will book a direct berth. Former New Zealand cricket captain Ross Taylor has decided to come out of retirement to represent Samoa, the country of his mother's birth, as they bid to qualify for the next year's 2020 World Cup. The 41-year-old scored more than 18,000 runs for New Zealand before ending his international career in April 2022. Taylor holds a Samoan passport through his mother's heritage and is eligible to represent a second national team at the end of the 3-year cooling-off period. 9 teams, including Samoa, will compete in the qualifying tournament in Oman this October. They chase 3 spots for next year's T20 World Cup in India and Sri Lanka. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code on the screen and download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live. News Hour.